Happy day everyone. In this video, we will look at headline writing. But before getting into our topic in detail, let's take a look at the structure of a news report. News report is comprised of 5 elements. They are headline, byline, placeline, lead and body. So as you can see, the first element is the headline. So we'll be looking at that in detail. Headline is a title of a newspaper or a magazine article. It should concisely summarize the content of that article. So whenever you're reading a newspaper, the first thing that would catch your eyes is the headline. Only if the headline is interesting, you will read the rest of the article. So the main purpose of a headline is to draw the reader's attention. So the headline is comprised of 2 parts, that is primary headline and the secondary headline. The main part which draws the reader's attention is the primary headline, and secondary headline is usually written in a 1 or 2 lines. It adds additional information to the primary headline. It can be placed either above or below the primary headline. Here we have an example: homeless survive winter. Now what? As you can see, that is visually dominant, therefore it is a primary headline. Below it you have nomadic shelter program closes, which gives additional information to the primary headline, therefore it is considered as a secondary headline. Based on the placement of the secondary headline, headlines are of 4 different styles. They are hammer, kicker, wicket and tripod. We look at each of these styles in detail. First we have hammer. Hammer is a combination of primary and secondary headline, and in this style the primary headline comes above the secondary headline. You can see in the example, US attacked. That is the main headline, that is a primary headline. Below it you have hijacked jets destroyed twin towers and hit Pentagon in day of terror, which adds additional information to the main headline, that is US attacked. Therefore it is considered to be the secondary headline. In this style you could notice the primary headline is above the secondary headline. Therefore it comes under the hammer style. Then we have kicker. In this type of headline, the secondary headline is usually written in a single line and it is placed above the primary headline. For example, Dhoni plays a decisive role. It is a primary headline, as you know, because it is visually dominant, and above it you have 5-wicket victory over RR takes CSK to top of points table, which adds additional information to the primary headline. Therefore it is considered as the secondary headline. As you can notice, in kicker style the secondary headline will only be 1 line long and it will be placed above the primary headline. It acts as an eyebrow to the primary headline, therefore it is also called as the eyebrow style headline. Then we have wicket. Wicket is similar to kicker because the secondary headline would obviously be placed above the primary headline, but there is a slight difference. That is, the secondary headline will be written in 2 lines or more. As you can see in the example, Obama makes history. That is the primary headline, and above it you have US decisively elects first black president, Democrats expand control of Congress, which is a secondary headline and it is written in 2 lines. Therefore, it comes under wicket style. Then the final style is tripod. In this type of headline, the secondary headline is placed either on the right or left of the primary headline. Here we have an example of bash crash. That is the primary headline, and on the side you have thunder lightning cause homecoming, which is a secondary headline. Now we'll look at on how to write a headline. First, you have to use simple sentence and declarative sentences, because as we all know that there are 2 types of news, that is hard news and soft news. Hard news deals with more serious subject, whereas soft news is for entertainment. So for a soft news, you could use interrogative sentence, imperative sentence or exclamatory sentence in your headline. Whereas in hard news, since the subject is going to be very serious and is of immediate value, the most appropriate headline that you can use here would be the declarative sentence. You can use present tense, past perfect tense and future tense, and most importantly, you have to be accurate. You can't give any misleading information in the headline. And you have to use active verbs. Active verbs are sentences in which the subject is actively performing the action. For example, here we have M.O.P students aid flood victims. Here you can see that M.O.P students are actively involved in helping the flood victims. But for certain exceptional cases where you don't know who is performing the action, you can use passive verbs also. For example, flood victims are supported through food production drive. We don't know who is organizing or conducting the food production drive. Therefore, passive verbs can be used in such exceptional cases. And positive headers are preferred over the negative ones. And you have to avoid stating the obvious because there are plenty number of newspapers available in the market and they are going to cover the most important news. It will be repetitive. So you have to be different with your headline to trigger the reader's curiosity, and that is how you can increase your readers count. And you cannot repeat the same keyword in both the parts of your headline. As we all just saw, there are two parts to a headline, that is primary headline and secondary headline. You can't repeat the same element in both the parts. And you can use common abbreviations. For example, instead of saying Tamil Nadu, you can use the abbreviation TN. Or instead of saying Chief Minister, you can use the abbreviation CM. And you have to make sure that your headline answers many W questions as possible. That is who, where, what, when and why. You should not use a full stop or a period in the end of your headline because your news article is going to be an extension of a headline, and as you should remember, the headline is a title given to your newspaper article or a magazine article. So you should not use a full stop towards the end of your headline. And you can use the punctuation comma instead of the conjunction and. Usually while quoting someone, you will use double quotation. Whereas in headline, you have an exception and you can use single quotation instead of double quotation. And instead of using the words says, told, asked, you can use punctuation such as hyphen, colon and commas. For example, PM colon, which means that Prime Minister, India will use 50% of clean energy by 2030. And in the next example, you have test on headline writing hyphen teacher, which is understood that it is said by the teacher. You can omit the articles and be verbs in the headline. You can also use them to make, unless and until it is required to make the meaning clearer. Here we have an example, box office success for new Johnny Depp movie. But the correct grammatical way of writing it would be box office success for a new Johnny Depp movie. Since you are going to use this sentence as your headline, you can omit the article here. And in the next example, 15 men arrested in Lucknow. The correct grammatical way of writing it would be 15 men were arrested in Lucknow. But here you can remove the be verb since it is in headline. You have to use the strongest word in the first line, meaning that the first line of your headline would be your primary headline. So you have to use the most crucial information in your primary headline, and other information which are much more less important could be used in your secondary headline. And you have to use numbers rather than the spelled out number names. Your entire article is going to be written using letters or alphabets. So if you're going to use a number there, it would stand out and it would grab the reader's attention. So prefer using numbers rather than number names. Here we have an example, 15 men. Instead of writing FIFTEN, I have used the number 1 and 5. So this is an example of using numerical in a headline. And you can also use alliteration, pun and satire if it is appropriate to the context. Now let's take a look at the various examples of these different types of headline. First, we have example of a headline with numbers and abbreviation. GCC gets 90 days to complete drain work. Here GCC is an abbreviation of Greater Chennai Corporation, and instead of writing the number name, we have used the number 90 for 90. And an example of headline with quotes is Murmu's election showcases strength of India's democracy. So instead of using double quotation, here we have used single quotation. Next, we have headlines with active verbs. Registration department to intimate consumers about portal software updates. Here we can see that the registration department is the subject who's actively going to perform the action. Therefore, active verb has been used in this example. Then you have headline with colon, population and asset to economy, colon, Shah, meaning that it was said by Shah. So I hope that you have understood the different elements of a headline. Now read the newspaper, especially the headlines, and try to identify the elements which the writer have used there. Thank you.